February 1st in Warsaw as the leaders of Israel, Poland, and Germany stood together for the first time to honor the heroes of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising.
Sirens are sounded in Israel every year on Holocaust Remembrance Day, but this year they also wailed in Warsaw as a sign of commitment to the commemoration of Jewish Holocaust victims in Poland. Dozens of Holocaust survivors and dignitaries joined the Israeli, Polish, and German presidents gathered at the Polish capital's monument to the ghetto heroes and stood to the sounds of the sirens for a minute of silence in memory of the Jews who staged an uprising on the site 80 years ago.
Holocaust Martyrs and Heroes Remembrance Day 2023 is titled Jewish Resistance During the Holocaust, marking 80 years since the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Miss Aliza Vitis Shomron, one of the last fighters from the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, is honoring us with her presence this evening. President of the State of Israel, Mr. Yitzhak Herzog. At this moment, a moment of majesty, mercy, and truth, we can truly hear the heartbeats of an entire nation, standing before their days of awe, the week that begins tonight and will end with conclusion of the State of Israel's 75th Independence Day. Our dear citizens of the State of Israel, I wish to speak to you here about just 10 words, a museum of skulls and skeletons of an extinct race, and that extinct race is that of the Jewish people. This photograph is a rare image, a small, pure, and simple moment before their world was destroyed. A father carrying in his arms his son, his only son, the son he loved, a moment before he was bound. It would become the opening chapter of a horrifying monstrosity, a museum of skulls and skeletons of an extinct race. Ziggy Rosenthal, little Danny's father, was one of the 86 human Jewish victims whose organs were used for experiments by Nazi anthropologists who were looking for Jews whose skeletons, noses, ears, cranial structures, and facial features would give a voice to the race theory better than any word. Time after time after time, the bodies of the victims of this terrible and dark crime were violated in the camps, in the gas chambers, even in a medical faculty. Their blood was shed like water, with none to bury them. The Museum of Skulls and Skeletons of an Extinct Race reflected how, with blood-curdling cruelty, the Nazis were also thinking about the day after, the day when no living Jew would remain anywhere on earth. How would the enlightened world, cleansed of Jews, recall this extinct inferior race? How would the members of the master race know that it had been right to expunge these Untermenschen from their pure human world? This museum was supposed to provide an answer to this question. It was the finale of the final solution. The project had a commander, Professor August Hirt, a doctor, a man sworn to saving lives, who horrifyingly made this collection of Jewish organs his life's work. My sisters and brothers, with human courage and divine assistance, the Allies overcame the forces of tyranny. With human courage and divine assistance, spirit triumphed, the spirit of our people who raised themselves with scarred wings from the gruesome depth of the Holocaust. It was this spirit that triumphed. The miracle of our rebirth 75 years ago was the victory of light over darkness. We arose from dust and ashes. The yellow patch gave way to the flag of Israel. The furnaces gave way to the fires of creativity and construction. We founded an exemplary state. As is written, for the Lord will comfort his people, will redeem Jerusalem. the memorial torch, the eternal flame that flickers here at Yad Vashem at the foothills of our nation's mountain of rebirth, is constrained by neither time nor space. It brings with it eternity. It carries forth meaning. This pillar of fire is the light at the end of the tunnel of the horrors of the Holocaust. It leads us, sustains us, and no less importantly, tasks us with responsibility, a momentous responsibility above all, never to be dependent on the mercy of others. Another responsibility is the task of memory, and more importantly, the task of learning from memory. We shall remember those who believed in this soul and spirit, who risked their lives to save even a single soul. We will remember and we will learn from their deeds. I appeal to you, citizens of Israel, with a simple prayer. Let us leave these sacred days, which begin tonight and end on Independence Day, above all dispute. Let us all come together, as always, in partnership, in grief, and in remembrance.
You're with us everywhere we go. We hold you safely in our hearts to share with future generations all the lessons of your past, all your suffering and losses, all the pain that you went through will never be forgotten. Herzog.
And so joining me now in the studio is Nate Buzolic. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
So I have to ask, you are an Australian, you're not Jewish, you're not Israeli, and yet you have a very strong connection to Israel, a major supporter of Israel. Why?
Well, that's I guess a long story as to how my relationship with Israel has, formed over many years. But, truthfully, I'm a Christian. I believe that Jesus is the Messiah. And I guess the more I dived into the text, the more I start to understand, this God that we follow as Christians, that you realize he's a promise maker. He keeps covenants. And, we're living in a time where, for 2,000 years you could question God's promises, but in 2023 we see that he's brought this nation back into the land, and for 75 years it's one of those things where you can't debate whether God keeps his promises or not. Long ago he made a promise to Abraham, and we can see how that still exists today. So when I became a Christian, it was one of those things where many Christians struggle to understand how to place Israel in the story, but the more you read the Bible, the more you understand God's word, you see that his covenant promise to this nation still stands. And it's actually a powerful thing for a Christian, because how am I ever supposed to trust any of the promises that God makes to me if I think that he's broken his promise to this people and his first covenant people? So it was just a lot of study. And, I grew up in a very, very Muslim Middle Eastern community, very anti-Israel. A lot of the lies and propaganda that gets spread about this nation was something that I was surrounded by at a young age. When I first came here, I realized that there's a lot of lies and mistruths about this nation. So as someone who believes in the truth, I believe that God is the truth ultimately, that you can't kind of just ignore what's happening here. And I think it's really important that we start sharing with the world the truth of Israel, the truth of this people.